Dumber Dap.
It's really easy to think that the world is just filled with hate and fear and negativity, and I feel very lucky and very privileged, and I feel that it's therefore very important that I continually shout about the number of people that are in this world that believe in doing their bit, that believe in positivity, that believe in people as having the solutions to so many of those problems. I'm Selina Hales. I am a mum of 2 children, Angus and Ailey. I am the founder of Refuweegee. I gave up my full-time job to do this. And lots of other things as well. I'm a drummer in Samba Yabamba, although I'm not sure I can still say that given that I've not played in a very long time with the band because I'm a bit busy. So Refuweegee is a project that I set up in December 2015 to make sure that forcibly displaced people were welcomed to Glasgow in the way that I know that the city is capable of welcoming people. So I came up with the idea as one of those sort of light bulb moments, sat at home, having tried, and I think we all need to be a bit more comfortable with admitting that we try to switch off to a lot of distressing imagery, to distressing stories. I was finding it really, really difficult hearing about the way that people were being forced to move and the situations that they were then being forced into. Ailey was about 12 months, just over 12 months at around October time when the idea came to me. The television had been left on and there was a piece on the news about the closure of the Hungarian border, and a father stood with a very small child, probably only weeks old, in a papoose on his front, and he was fleeing a war and he was faced with border control in front of him, and that space with him and his children in between was filled with tear gas and water cannons and horror, and somebody pulled the journalist and the film crew round to capture this man in a situation that should never be happening. It's not a situation from the war which he has managed to escape and flee. It's a situation that we're presenting people with when they arrive at what's supposed to be safety. And at that point, it sort of tipped me over the edge of I can't spend any longer sat back using having a young family as an excuse to not do something. I felt very disconnected. I felt like there wasn't much I could do to make a difference without going abroad, without volunteering in a refugee camp, without doing something further afield, and then realised that actually we were receiving and should be welcoming thousands of people across the country, and what could we do locally as individuals to do that. So I thought, actually, when that man reaches this border, if he ever does, I want Glasgow to welcome him the way that I know this city is capable of, and Scotland to do that. And I decided the best way to do that was to pass on a gesture of kindness, and the welcome packs were born. Three types of items: essentials like toiletries, umbrellas, Scottish items like Tunnock's tea cakes and Iron Brew, and then my favourite part, the letters for the locals, which are just warm words from people. That the concept of that was also that it gave everybody an opportunity to pass something on, to get involved without there being a need for financial capacity or items to give. The name was a sort of lying in bed moment, and the elbow to my husband, and I was like, Ross, what do you think about blending 2 words, and like, do you not think Refuweegee could really catch? and he dismissed it. Which I love telling everybody that'll listen, and he's horrified by. He has been incredibly supportive and brilliant, and has come up with some great ideas and additions to the packs. I should follow that. I'm being kind. But yeah, the name is actually what has connected with the existing community, and that was key. There are lots and lots of people trying to do their bit to share stories, to get in front, to make sure that people are aware of what people have been through and what's happened. But what I really wanted to focus on was harnessing the power from within the community that somebody arrives in and using that. Initially, when Refuweegee was set up, I wanted to be very, very careful about how we approached our partner organisations and how we approached individuals arriving in the city. As I'm sure most people are aware, there are a lot of people that you need to meet when you first arrive in the city. A lot of people asking you to repeat the same story. And I was really keen that we didn't become another organisation that did that. So we partner with organisations who work directly with people, and we provide the welcome packs to those organisations. There's no initial ask from us for people to come in and meet us, because we didn't want to add that barrier, I suppose, but just another face. The lovely thing about that is that as we've developed and as we've grown and as we've built trust with our partner organisations, and as the donations have expanded way beyond what we initially asked for in welcome packs, we now run a drop-in. The drop-in is great because we get people that come in, and quite often it's for buggies or for jackets. Clothing and stuff, we're a bit like, we don't like being asked to provide clothing because you want to pick your own, you want to come in and have a look. So that's when we then invite people to come into the office, have a rummage, have a dig around, and go away with what is actually going to be of use to you. One father that sticks with me was, he came in to pick up a buggy, and as he was leaving, he was like, "You've no idea what this means to me. You've actually changed my life." And those moments sort of, they both horrify and overwhelm me at the same time. They're lovely. It's wonderful to feel like you've had such an impact, and you've been able to join up the dots from all the people that were involved in getting that buggy to that person. That's amazing. But he thanked me as if we'd given him so much more than a second-hand buggy. Because people have built that trust in us and not been faced with us right at the beginning, we've slowly built up relationships and trust, and that gentle approach has actually probably benefited us far, far more than the initial meet. So we now work with the council, and we go to the airport quite often with the children's welcome packs to give kids something to play with, to do, to be amused by, to eat, after a very, very long day's travelling usually, and whilst the parents are trying to get their heads round where they are, what they need to know, where they're going next, who's going to take them there, with interpreters and things. The other lovely thing about that is that we were asked by the council to bring recently arrived volunteers as well, to bring volunteers from the refugee community, so that there's, as well as the very formal interpreter, we also have people that not only can speak the language that people speak, but they can also share that experience. They've stood on that tarmac, they've walked through that arrivals gate with very, very little with them, and they know what that experience is like. So it's lovely that these things have developed from it. The team in Refuweegee consists at the moment of 3 members of staff. There's myself, and then we have Hannah, who organises this space, the donations and the volunteering side of things. She is my rock. And then I'm going to follow that with Sarah also being my other rock, who does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. She is in all of the administrative, she does our sort of background work, but incredibly important background work. So yeah, we've got a real solid core, but these are the people that are needed to facilitate, to oversee the people that actually have massive input and make a huge difference to us are people that write letters, people that donate items, people that shout about what we do, people that share the Refuweegee story. Our volunteer network is incredible. Those are the people that make the difference and that make what we do possible. But then in time, we've also built up really strong connections with refugee community, and that has shaped and massively influenced and sort of grown beautifully some of what we do. So we have volunteers that come in from the refugee community, but that also we partner with on events and things. We recently did a barbecue event where the Syrian network in Glasgow cooked the most fabulous food, shared stories, brought friends and relatives and connected us with so many new people in the city. We love nothing more than when somebody gets in touch with us and says, I really like what you do. If I mix it with what I do, something really special can happen. Refuweegee is the epitome of People Make Glasgow without everybody in the city getting involved. It's nothing. It's 3 people in a room filled with stuff. Or an empty room, I suppose, if nobody donates. The thing that I love most about what I now get to do are the people that we get to meet and the things that we get to involve those people in. So the awards are lovely. It's really nice to be recognised for what you do. However, in being nominated for the Diversity Awards last year, we were able to take a group of 6 recently arrived people from Sudan, Syria and Iran to the Diversity Awards in full kilts and tartan trews, thanks to Slaters, and they got to enjoy that award ceremony and be part of what makes Refuweegee amazing. I get asked how I find the time all the time, and I don't know. I have no idea. Refuweegee started off from my living room when I still worked full time. I worked compressed hours in order to manage childcare and stuff as well. And it's a really bizarre thing. I now describe it as all we're doing is being kind. It's as simple as that. And we all have time to be kind. There have definitely been lowlights. There are definitely moments where it goes back to that point where you think, oh, I wish I could switch this off. That overwhelm is so necessary, and I don't know anybody who works in this field, if it is a field, in this area, that it hasn't sort of taken over. And I find time because I have an amazing volunteer network to fall back on. So whilst it may look like Refuweegee is everywhere, there are lots and lots of different people representing and supporting and sharing and spreading. So it's taken up a lot of my evenings. My son thinks that he lives at Refuweegee at times. It's part of our lives. I used to work in a job that I worked and then I had my home life and my social life and all of those things. I now just have life, and that feels really, really special. Refuweegee shouldn't exist. It shouldn't need to exist. Really, really early on, I was asked in a podcast, I think, where do you see Refuweegee in 5 years? And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely if we lived in a world where in 5 years it wasn't needed, where in 5 years we didn't have 65, it must be nearer 67 now, but 65.3 million people who are currently not living in their home. That's where I want to be, where I think we'll be. I hope that we'll have a slightly different system in terms of the numbers of people that we're welcoming. I hope that communities and governments are working better. I don't want to be continually lobbying, I want to work with. And I think we're really capable, and I think we're getting closer. So yeah, in the not so distant future, it would be lovely to see that happen. I would like a humane system. I would like for Refuweegee to be able to concentrate solely on what its purpose is, was, should be, which is to welcome people. But instead we work very closely with a lot of people going through very, very difficult circumstances, and that's because of a lack of humanity across so many systems. I'd like people to be treated as people. For every single person that comes in, to be met by somebody who thinks of that person as their grandmother, as their mother, as their best friend. Just kindness, just really, really simple kindness.